and welcome to Comic Book Wednesday. It's our weekly series where we talk about comic books. We're your hosts. I'm Ian.
I'm Al.
I'm Shane.
Remember, if you're enjoying our content, please remember to like, comment, interact. This week we jumped into some more comic books by Jonathan Hickman, making our way closer and closer to Secret Wars. This week was Avengers 37, New Avengers 26, and Avengers 38. If I do say so myself, it's starting to come full circle here.
I did get that vibe, yeah.
So
they were an interesting couple of comics.
Jump off of that. I want to hear your thoughts, Al. Likes, dislikes, throw them at me.
So I'm kind of torn with these ones because, when this whole thing started, I was on Cap's side, and now I'm kind of fading more towards Tony's side, I don't want to say that Tony's right in all this, and I don't want to say that he's wrong, but the way they're trying to hunt him down, and they're not, the whole thing just strikes me as kind of odd.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree with you. I'm having second thoughts about my point of view on this whole thing, and what heroes would I align myself with if I was in this scenario. And you want to say Cap 100% because they erased his memory and things like that, but he has kind of gone a little far here.
Yeah, I mean, he's kind of off the reservation on this one.
Yeah, I mean, we joked earlier about war crimes, but I think he's gonna he's going further here.
And I don't know if I missed it, but when did we get old Cap? When did that transition happen?
In the 8 months. So it happens in another book, and Hickman uses an 8-month time jump to catch up with the other books because he was kind of behind with his story as far as the other Marvel books were concerned. So that's unfortunate. We're not reading every Marvel book that came out in that year, so it's tough. Same thing with Iron Man getting the silver suit, becoming superior Iron Man, and we can talk more about that as we get into that.
And also, my other thought on it was, give me a second. I had a train of thought and I just lost it. Go ahead.
You're good. How about you, Shane? I mean, how are you feeling about the moral ambiguity of our characters here?
I don't think I'd pick a side. I hate to say it, but I definitely want to see what the issue is. Because sure, Tony and his arrogance always has a plan, always is going to try and do the most absurd, bigger, better thing in order to solve the problem. And, I feel like, I agree with you, Al. I think Cap is just letting his emotions run wild. But also at the same time, we saw that Tony's plan didn't work, which is why, they ended up forming the Cabal in the first place. So, if we were to take this direct context, the plan that they originally had didn't work. They then get, they all split up and start becoming hunted. And for the predicament of Cap hunting down the Illuminati, it doesn't seem like he's doing it anything more because they're bad. I don't really see the why. Yes, their plans and their schemes, there's no oversight, there's no anything really. They're just kind of their own governing body. But also at the same time, I don't think they were really doing that bad of a job. Sure, their ideas were fucking out there at times, but they were doing their best.
Yeah, no, I kind of agree with you to a point. I feel like the Illuminati lied about the scenario. They should have been more open with larger parties. But, when does bureaucracy become a threat? So, I feel like they were, kind of,
they don't want to cause mass panic.
True.
Without, There's a fine line between informing the politicians and all of that, and then it becoming a epidemic and a huge crisis. You know what I mean? So I think they were kind of playing their cards by ear and trying to find the smoothest way through, and it kind of snowballed on them.
Right. That kind of brings me to a point that I was thinking about from the first issue, where Cap is rewatching footage that looks like a UN summit, and he's like the former what's it called, Galactus Herald, Herald of Galactus. What's his name? The big dude that looks like a rock with a beard. Can't remember his name. He's part of the Cabal.
Yeah. I forget his name too.
But yeah, he's essentially like addressing the UN, saying like, not only are your heroes liars and they keep secrets from you, but they can't solve the problem, and we can. And then the UN grants them Wakanda in order to be their base of operations as they destroy other Earths. So like, the Illuminati kept their secrets. They didn't want to cause mass panic, of course. But on top of that, the bad guys come and say, hey, we can solve your problem, and we can solve it better, and we're going to. So it's kind of like, oof. You know?
Which is kind of wild, because they're essentially proving their own point that they can.
Mm-hmm. And they do it. They are murdering people, but they are solving the problem to a point. At least delaying the inevitable.
It's very much like government bodies to just be like, I don't want to know what you're doing or how you're doing it, just make it go away.
Just make it go away. Yeah, exactly. And it's interesting, like, then, like, what is the Shield Avengers ran by Cap? They are, like, looks like they're sanctioned by the U.S. government. Like, they have, like, ropes that they have to get pulled back on. Oddly enough, the same type of ropes that the MCU Cap wanted to eliminate and not have, which is why he went against the Sokovia Accord. So it's kind of interesting to see that
play
aspect.
The opposite side of that.
Yeah. And that's another thing I kind of feel like Cap kind of sold out.
Yeah, it's more coming into the point that you were making out, where just it doesn't feel like this is really what should be going on.
Right.
Exactly.
Like what I was thinking before also was, we got that episode with Cyclops being a big name in it, and it kind of made me wonder, did Hickman write any of the X-Men stories that follow in with this?
He writes X-Men, or at least he did last year. So like he didn't write anything that like led up to it. I think he might have had a hand in Avengers versus X-Men, but don't quote me on that. I'm not entirely sure.
Okay, so there's no X-Men books that work with this storyline.
No, not necessarily. This is very much an Avengers story, Fantastic Four story.
Okay.
Maybe his X-Men run after Secret Wars ties in.
So is that more of a callback then?
Perhaps. I haven't really read too much of his X-Men stuff. It's something that's on my list, but they're just like this. There's multiple books, so it's a little daunting if you don't really sit down and look at everything.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
I want to talk about Cap's relationship real quick with Sue Storm and with Captain Marvel, because that was a very interesting conversation that happened between all of them.
Yeah, and it finally answered some of the questions that I've been having.
Yeah, no, totally. We'll get to that in a sec. But so Sue Storm has seems to have gotten the trust of Captain America to the point where Captain Marvel is giving intel to Cap. Not all the intel that he wants, but guys, I'm sorry, Al.
I'm kind of surprised that Carol Danvers, being a military type character that she's not like, I don't know that we should let her into the fold yet. You know, like, let's
Yeah.
not tell her everything.
He's totally pulling rank on her, though.
Yeah, I know, but it's just kind of odd that they would go that quick, I guess, to me.
No, that's fair. Cap's judgment is definitely skewed, unless he doesn't trust her and he wants to feed her false info. I guess we'll see. You know.
That's a good
Yeah.
point.
But the way Cap talks to Carol kind of threw me off. Like, I get he's frustrated and he's angry, but he was just like straight up rude to her.
Yeah, he was
Yeah.
definitely a dick.
He was definitely a dick. He's like, don't ever come into one of these meetings again without intel on Stark or Richards. Like, you understand me? And she's like, yes, sir. And he's like, hey, now get out of here. Fuck.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
no, he
definitely,
wouldn't have
like,
done that
not
before.
No.
I'm sorry, go ahead, Shane.
No, I was just agreeing with you.
Yeah, it's definitely not the same Cap. Like, there's definitely some issues that have happened there that they didn't explain, in my opinion.
No, and maybe they'll backtrack on it a bit, but sometimes when you have these huge gaps in comics or multiple things, it just tends to get lost in the sauce a little.
Yeah.
I'm curious to see. I'm gonna look up when Cap becomes old, and I'll like shoot you guys those books, and maybe some of that kind of stuff will like make sense if you want to read on your own.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be great.
A little filler. But what else? What other big things happened? We talked about like the inclusion of, so like we'll jump around a little bit. So Cyclops, you mentioned him earlier. So the whole point of Sunspot it was Sunspot, right?
Yeah.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
Because
Sunspot
he goes back to X Nation, I believe they were calling it.
Yes, he goes to X Nation, which is guarded by Sentinels, which is interesting. But he goes there to meet Hank McCoy, who like basically gives him a ton of information on the Illuminati's plan. And it seems like the Illuminati want to make a move to partner with S.H.I.E.L.D. to stop the Cabal.
I kind of got that vibe a little bit, yeah.
Yeah. That last issue was kind of jumping all over the place for me. I was really kind of confused. I mean, it's essentially just like a business meeting with the new Avengers in the Savage Land within the AIM headquarters, because Sunspot now owns AIM. But like, I don't know, there were some flashbacks to the origin points from like earlier comics that we read, and I wasn't quite sure what they were doing with that, like being like it like captured a girl or something. I don't know. Any of you picked up on what was going on there?
I think I understood it. By my understanding, and I could be wrong, when this thing landed, it needed a symbiotic relationship in order to function properly. So this bystander just kind of happened to be there, and it basically encapsulated her, and now she refers to it as we because it's fully integrated.
I see.
That's how I understood it.
It's interesting, and that's the same thing that was standing behind Sunspot's desk while Nightmask and Starbrand were saying they wanted to join in on the multiverse team, right?
Yeah.
Is that robot? So they pulled that thing out of I guess the in between, the areas between multiverses, right? Or between universes.
Yeah, they pulled it through, and that kind of confused me because first seeing it, I was like, "What is this thing doing here?" But then now that context makes a lot more sense.
Okay. That makes sense, I guess. It was a little weird, like reading it, because like they jumped, like the frames were jumping like times and locations, and I was kind of just like flashback here, current day here, and I was like, oh shit, okay. So not his most like organized book.
No.
Speaking of, I did have a question real quick about the first issue before we get too far away from it.
We can jump all over, Manny. Go ahead. Go ask your question.
Sweet. There was a scene that I took in my notes where it was the hologram of Hulk and McCoy playing chess. And, Cap had seen this, and they were like, yeah, this recording is meant for you. And he was like, okay, give me the room. And then he just absolutely, destroys it after they insult him.
Yeah.
It just got me thinking of, yeah, not very Cap-like, but also I kind of wanted to know in that moment of, okay, why is him clearing the room, there wasn't any intel there, or did he just not want anybody to show how, his weakness that this is getting to him? That he's been spending, his later years hunting for Tony and the Illuminati and is just making no progress whatsoever.
So I'm thinking two things about that. The one thing I'm thinking is he lost his cool. He doesn't want people to know he lost his cool, and he's doesn't know what to fucking do to get them. He's mad. Mm-hmm. Other thing is he picked up on some intel there, and he wanted to break it so no one else could figure it out, and he's going to try to use it, or he fed it to Sue, or, something like that. Yeah. It's strategic, because, cool, calm, and collected Cap would do something like that as a strategic
thing. True.
But, I'm not exactly sure where he's at this point,
Yeah. No, I agree. And thank you. I was just looking through my notes, and that was one of those things where I was like, oh, yeah, that caught me off guard a little bit.
Definitely. We never fully addressed the thing that kind of, I guess, answered some questions for you. Sue Storm is a double agent.
Yes.
I had a feeling, starting off, that she was I know they've had their differences, but I don't think she would ever go completely against Reed.
Yeah, I was having a feeling too, but I don't think I was as sure as you were. Because I was kind of
I definitely wasn't sure, but I was like, I don't think she would do that, but I guess anything's possible.
Right. Anything could happen at this point, I guess. And then she had a message for Reed from his daughter, who is smart. She's a genius. She's got a genius level intellect. And she tells him, you have to stop trying to win. You have to learn how to lose. Or lose correctly.
How not to lose, right?
How not to lose. Yeah, that's it. That's exactly it. Don't try to win. Try not to lose. So, survive. And Val also shares that information with her dear old Uncle Doom.
That situation still feels odd to me, that she refers to him as Uncle Doom, and, he's there being her,
he cares for her.
Guardian, and, it's just an odd situation to me.
Yeah, I was a little confused. You've explained it, we've gone over it a little bit, but still I don't quite see the connection and the why.
Hickman builds that relationship in his Fantastic Four run, so I'm glad that I read that on my own. If you guys want to, it's long, but it's good. And it might just be extra filler for context. It's not necessarily necessary to understand the story, but you just get a good idea of how things work with that.
Okay.
But you're not really missing story-wise stuff. It's just kind of it fills in the gaps a little bit, so you understand why certain characters do their nuances and whatnot. What else happened in that? She tells Doom the same thing. He talks to Molecule Man, but I don't quite remember their conversation. Do you have anything from that issue, screenshot it, Shane?
No, I mean, it's still fresh in my head because I read it a little bit ago. But basically their conversation where he was like, I need your help, and he's like, okay, I'll help you, and he's like, good, this is what you need to do for me, you need to tell me how to not lose. and he's just like kind of echoing the statement that she told him.
Right. Okay. I'm thinking like forward here because I know how Secret Wars starts, and I've read that book, and just knowing where these characters go, it's very interesting to see this, and I can't wait to talk about it with you guys when you guys eventually do read it. How Not to Lose, and both of these characters, Doom and Reed, approach the situation in their own very unique ways.
I'm glad because like I'm really curious about that.
I'm glad, and it'll be worth it. It's going to be satisfying. I'm sure you're going to like it. What else from that issue? I feel like there's some more meat and potatoes there, and I'm just not remembering it too well.
Well, one of the things that I did was like we already touched on the symbiotic relationship with the kid and the robot thing, but the real thing at the end was the multiple copies of Shang-Chi.
Yes, that's so weird.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, so
like he like gave into the what do they call it? The origin bomb locations.
Yes, he goes to the origin. Yeah, he like kind of like gave in. So if you remember from an earlier comic we read, that location was like the one where I think it's Alpha Squad goes, and they get like destroyed. Yeah. They get completely like decimated and like turned into these like, I don't want to say undead, but that's what it reminds me of,
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And he, instead of fighting it, he gives in and like accepts it, and it replicates him. So now there's an army of Shang-Chi.
That was the way that I took it, yeah.
That's interesting. And are they going through the multiverse? or is that are they gonna help take out the Cabal? Is an army of Shang-Chi gonna fight Thanos?
That would be amazing.
I would watch that. That would be hands down.
My money's on Thanos.
Rings. My man's got just like 10 million of him.
Oh my god. But that was at the end of Avengers, I think. Avengers
that was the last issue.
So New Avengers 26. I think New Avengers 26 was. Oh, you know what was happening in that we didn't touch on? Tony. We didn't talk about Tony.
Oh yeah, the cage.
Yeah. So what do you guys think? Tony's mental state. I mean, where's he at this point?
Well, and the whole Black Widow and Spider-Woman like showing up and like being like, okay, we could rescue you if you decided to change your ways.
And then he was like, "You're, like I'm your savior, bitches. Like, come on, brother."
I don't know. So, I don't know why he was like
Hulk Hogan,
Randy the Savage right there, but
No, this is canon now. That's just how he is.
It's yeah. 616 Tony Stark is Randy Savage.
That and the conversation with Black Swan.
Swan was waiting the longest time to have this conversation with him. Shit. I mean, he got to her.
I got you now, bitch. What?
Yeah.
It's so interesting because, like, the arrogance of Tony, you want him to be wrong, but then he says some shit, and you're like, "Oh no, you can't be right. I know you are, but I don't want you to be."
Right. It's like, you motherfucker.
Yeah. That was. I kind of feel like he's going off the deep end in his own way, like a little bit like Cap, because I mean, previously, if I could imagine Tony in that scenario, sure, he would have said whatever would have needed to be said, in order to be set free. Like, he would have made promises, he would have made deals, he would have been like, yes, I was wrong, and then immediately gone back to doing some sketchy shit. Like, he wouldn't have cared.
Also,
But the fact that he's giving into his ego, I just find that really, like, kind of an interesting duality between him and Cap, because they're currently both doing that.
it is interesting. The what we have to remember is that there was an alternate story that happened outside Hickman's run where the Red Skull essentially grafts the brain of Professor X to his brain, or like some crazy comic bullshit, and he becomes Red Onslaught, and he essentially like causes good characters to turn bad, and bad characters to turn good, almost like a morality swap. And this is where Superior Iron Man is created, and that's Tony's persona right now. He is the Superior Iron Man. He's not a good guy. He's not a bad guy, but he's not good. So we see more of that, like he's feeding into his ego more because of that.
Right.
Okay, well, that context helps. Thank you.
Yes. It's hard with comics because they do so many different crossovers, so many different things, and yeah. But I think we're gonna see, like, and we also saw that Tony did try to stop the Cabal by himself. I think that's important to note. He went in there like guns blazing, got his shit pushed in. He had like a silver Hulkbuster suit and got killed. That happened really fast. I don't know if you guys picked up on that.
No, I
Sorry,
did.
Say that again. My daughter was talking to me.
You're good. You're the Tony Stark's attacking the Cabal by himself is what put him in that cage to begin with.
Gotcha. Like, completely missed that thing altogether.
Yeah, it happens really fast. It's like one panel. But yeah, he was trying to take them out. Okay. Anything?
So they've kind of kept him as like a prize, basically.
Essentially, yeah, he's their prisoner, and nobody seems to really know where he's at, so they're doing a good job. But now, both Natasha and Jessica know he's there, so I wonder how that's going to happen.
How they found out, I wonder, too.
They have their ways.
I mean, they both are spies, right? Like,
yeah, they're both super
Natasha
spies.
is.
Yes, so
well, doesn't that make them double agents too? Because Cap even made the comment of like, you know, they're both spies. When they want to go, they're going to go, and we're not going to be able to find them.
Well, they cut out their tracking chips.
Yeah, and then they showed up to AIM with all of this information, and they were like, "Did you come straight here?" And they were like, "Yeah, no, we did."
I like how Smasher's like,
immediately got called out.
They're lying. You guys know that, right? Like,
Yeah. It's so great.
I thought there was going to be more repercussions from that because as soon as they got called out, but no, they just calm and collected. Yeah, we went somewhere else. Wasn't worth our time.
They're going to have to come clean with that info sooner or later.
Very true. It's going to get held against them for sure.
Oh, totally. It's going to be like, we need to finish this, or like, we're not going to do this in time. We need someone who's super smart. We know just where to find the guy. That's exactly how it's going to play out, at least in my head canon.
Oh my god, no, you're not wrong, because they're going to show back up and he's going to be like, I'm waiting for my apology.
Exactly.
Fucking dick, Tony.
Yeah. But I like those issues. I really like the first Avengers issue where we get like the whole like Sue Storm being a double agent. I think that for me was a real like moment.
I've been
that
wondering
was-
about that for a while because I had the vibe that she wouldn't like. I don't know much about the character, but it was just my vibe that she wouldn't like totally go against him unless he did something. So I was waiting for that something moment to happen. But as it turns out, she's just double agent.
What were you saying, Al?
Nothing. I was just agreeing with you.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I don't really have much more on these. I really like these issues. Good set of 3, honestly.
Yeah, no, that was pretty
Yeah, they're
solid.
fun.
Definitely better than last time. It felt like the last time was a little bit lacking.
Totally. Setups before. What were you saying, Al? Sorry to cut you off.
No, I was just saying they were a fun couple issues. I enjoyed them.
Good. I'm glad. All right. Well, next week we are doing New Avengers 27, Avengers 39, and New Avengers 28. So we'll do a little double dip of New Avengers next week, and then after next week we have 1, 2, 3 weeks, and then Secret Wars.
Ooh.
So
We're getting there.
we are getting there. Thanks for everybody who's listening. If anybody has tuned in with Shane on live, we appreciate you.
Yeah, keep coming back.
Yeah, and if you found this video on YouTube, remember to like, comment, subscribe.
Show us love.
Yeah, let us know if you have any like specific comic book runs that you would like us to talk about. We have our own books after this that we want to jump into, of course, but we would take suggestions. Again, I'm Ian.
I'm Al.
And I'm Shane.
This was Comic Book Wednesdays. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Have a good night.